So welcome back to everyone who has been with us, and welcome to those who are joining for our second panel of our Skyscanner virtual Pride event. If you have just joined us, I'm Jenna. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the founder of Skyscanner's Pride Network and head of inclusion and diversity, and I also run the LGBT and travel blog, The Jenna Way. So I am delighted to have the honour of moderating today's panels and to be talking about a topic that I am so passionate about. Before I introduce our panelists, I just want to cover a couple of housekeeping rules for anyone that's new. Apologies if you've heard it already, but this event's running over the next 4 hours. So if you want to drop in and out to the sessions that are of most interest to you, that's great. If you want to stay the whole time, then even better. This is a safe space, and so we have a zero tolerance policy for any derogatory behaviour or abusive or offensive questions, and those won't be shared with our panellists. The sessions are being recorded, and this is allowing us to make them accessible to anyone who's not able to attend today, and to live on our website and on our YouTube channel for future for anyone else who wants to learn from our amazing panelists today. For this webinar, our Zoom chat has been disabled, but we do have a Slido link. So if anyone wants to ask a question to our panelists, you can go to Slido, that's slido.com, and then add the hashtag, which is for this panel, COVID impacts. And we'll share that in the chat box as well. So if at any point you want to ask our panelists a question, we'll come to them at the end, but just submit them in there at any time. Cool, so kicking off, just to introduce our panelists. First of all, we have Athena Dion, who with her Greek roots loves a good trip to Mykonos, where she's helped clubs with their launches and also loves to travel, exploring the world wherever she can. She started her first drag for Halloween and soon after started to pursue drag on her own and is one of the drag icons of Miami. She loves goddess vibes and her name fits perfectly. Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Welcome, thank you for joining us.
Hello, loves. It's so nice to be here with you all. Full disclosure, which you probably heard when I thought we were behind the scenes, I had foot surgery yesterday, but that was not going to keep me from getting dolled up and fabulous for this event because I think it's super important. And yeah, it's something to get out of bed, right? I think the healing process works better when you're looking beautiful and feeling good, right?
Yeah, I think you look fabulous. There's no way I'd look that good after surgery the day before. And secondly, to introduce Meg. Meg is an award-winning LGBT travel blogger who's been recording her adventures since 2012. Meg's background in LGBT advocacy has provided her a unique perspective when discussing LGBT travel around the world. Her travels have taken her to over 55 countries so far, and Curve Magazine, Diva Magazine, Forbes, New York Times, and Gay Star News have all cited Meg as one of the leading experts in travel for queer women. Among other things, Meg is the editor of Every Queer magazine, which inspires people of all sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender presentations to think differently about the global queer community through a lens of culture and activism. So thank you so much, Meg, for joining us.
No problem. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of wonky Wi-Fi issues, so hopefully I stay on board.
We're all good for now. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and both quite early in the morning for you as well. So yeah, I guess we'll just kick off with an easy question to start. We're discussing COVID today, and of course travel is kind of on pause, but I just wondered if you share like your favorite travel moment of 2019, and it would also be awesome if you share your pronouns as well for going into the panel. Athena, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, hi everyone. Once again, my name is Athena Dion, she, her at the moment. And I live in Miami, Florida. So I'm no stranger to travel. I've kind of turned my drag into more of an having a more of an international stage. For the past 2-3 years, I started exploring traveling and getting booked out of the country. And it all started with my trip to Israel, where I went to Tel Aviv for a gay pride in 2017 or 2017. And I did a whole trip, a whole tour of the country. We saw all the ancient sites and it was so magnificent. And it was one of those trips where you kind of listen to the story. You know, we were going through like the path of Jesus and all the biblical places, and you kind of relate it to yourself. And you start to have this almost epiphany experience where you're like, oh my God, like I need to get out more and, you know, be an artist outside of my own city type of thing. And I experienced gay pride in Israel, and it was so amazing. That year I got booked for the first time for my summer gig in Mykonos, Greece. So I'm Greek, and it was just a full you know, full 360 experience to kind of come back to my roots and be able to do drag and do what I love in the motherland, in my own country. And when I tell you it was the most out of body experience, it was something that I'll never forget. And that really jump started my traveling career. I traveled to the UK. I traveled back to Greece in the Christmas time of that year. Last year, 2019, was another summertime spent in Mykonos. And for those of you that haven't traveled to Mykonos in the summer, or Greece in general, it's like the best summer destination. They have literally 200 plus islands. You could just do your finger like this and pick one, and you will have the most amazing summer of your life. You know, summer loving, drinks on the beach, just the best time ever. And I spent 3 months there. From there, I went to Cyprus after Mykonos, and I did a huge show for Stoli Vodka. Actually, they had an awards show that they do every year, and I was the headliner. I was like, low budget today, low budget this year, guys. But it was so much fun. And actually, right now, I should be getting ready to go back to Mykonos, but I'm sure we'll get into this later on in the discussion, how COVID has dampened the plans a little bit. So that was my 2019, which was fabulous. Hopefully 2020 is salvageable, but we'll see.
Let's hope. And Meg, what about you? What's first I guess pronouns, and then a little bit of your travels.
Sure. So my pronouns are she and her. Travels this past year, in 2019, I traveled a tremendous amount, but I think the trip that impacted me the most was spending the summer in Kenya and Tanzania and Zanzibar and Africa. So I'm the global brand ambassador for a company called Kontiki International that does travel and tourism for 18 to 35-year-olds. And the kind of trips they do are wildly different depending on where in the world you're going. You know, no one goes on safari to party, so like the vibe is a little bit different when you're on a safari trip versus, you know, when you're, say, going to Barcelona. And so the trip that I was on was a luxury safari in safari tents in the Serengeti and different national parks throughout the region. It was absolutely incredible for a lot of reasons, a lot of them that I expected. You know, seeing the big five is amazing, but also, you know, interacting with folks and having conversations about what it's like to be LGBT in countries where it's punishable by 30 years in prison. So my content mission with Kontiki is focusing on LGBT travel in LGBT destinations that are either perceived to be anti-LGBT or have anti-LGBT laws on the books, and helping queer people travel safely and effectively in those regions of the world. So I think some of the travel that I've done in those areas where people cannot be open about their sexuality or gender identity are the trips that have impacted me the most. So of course, you know, everybody loves, you know, going to Scotland and visiting Edinburgh and doing all those things, which I also did last year. But I think the areas that are a little bit less expected for the queer traveler are the ones that I really loved.
That's great. Yeah, that's and your trip looked incredible. Cool. So if we sort of dive into the topic today, we thought it makes sense. We're running a travel and a pride panel, and COVID is sort of it's affecting us all at the moment, but particularly is having an impact in those two spaces, massively impacting the travel industry, and also has some unique impacts on the LGBT community specifically. So I just wondered, if we're setting the scene a little bit, if you could share a little bit about how this has impacted you on a personal level. You're both, I guess, in quite different industries, with like either performing or in the travel industry, but you've both been impacted by COVID and the restrictions that have come in place as a result of that. So I guess, Athena, will kick off with you. How has COVID impacted you, and particularly your income and your livelihood?
Oh, okay. Hold on.
We're just going to take a poll here as well and get some audience.
Hosts and panels can't vote. Darn it. Okay. Well, let me just put my 2 cents in. So, as far as how it's affected me personally and the community that I work in, I'm sorry, they're doing lawn work outside. If it's loud, I hope you can hear me and I'm coming in clear.
Can hear you perfectly. You're all good.
Good. So, well, basically, what I'm looking at right now has been my normal for the past 2 to 3 months. Right now, I'm sitting on my couch. I have a piece of fabric draped behind me. Obviously, my legs elevated. I'm looking at my computer screen on a Zoom call. And this has basically been what my life has consisted of since the lockdown, which was my last day of work was March 17th. And it was 16th. It was St. Patrick's Day, the 17th. And I remember after that, all the bars closed and we went into lockdown. And, you know, I told myself, and I actually made this a status on Facebook. I said, I'm looking forward to this lockdown because I'm going to just reflect and not do anything and take time for myself and find my stillness and my peace. And that lasted for 2 days until I got so anxious. I was about to explode. And I said, no, we have to figure out what we're going to do. And I started a talk show for myself and also for others, because honestly, I'm the kind of person that unless I'm actively doing something, for me to sit and Netflix or for endless days on end, I can't. I'll get this ball of energy inside of me just wants to escape. So I had to figure out something to do. And I knew a lot of people at home were struggling with the sense of loss of their normalcy, you know, and as a drag queen, as entertainers in the community, we are such a familiar face to a lot of people that come to our shows and they see us, and whether they get inspiration from us or whether they just like our shows in general, you know, for there to be an outlet or an opportunity for them to still find that while in quarantine, I thought was really important for them and for me. So I was like, what can we do? Let's start some shows. So I started my talk show, which I've always wanted to be a TV host. Like my whole life, I've always wanted to be a TV host. As a child, I would go around with that Walkman from Home Alone. Remember the voice changer, the thing, and I would interview my family. So I always wanted to be a yeah, and I changed the voices on my mom, and she hated it. But so I started a talk show on Wednesdays, and it's called What You Doing, and basically it was for me to talk to people locally in the community and just ask, what you doing? Let's talk. What are you doing in quarantine? You know, some fun questions, this and that, and it's doing really well. And then I linked up with two of my girlfriends from Mykonos, which are going to be later in the Pride event. They're joining us for Sisterhood of the Traveling Queens. And but our show is called Loose Lips, and it's every Friday. So that's another talk show. And then I do host the most successful drag brunch in Miami on Saturdays and Sundays in person. And I thought, well, let's continue this brunch online. So the girls send in pre-recorded videos, which gives them something to do at home. They make and they edit their content. They send me the videos. I've learned web streaming services. I'm so tech savvy now, it's not even funny. And I stream a whole brunch. So I'll host in between, I'll play their videos. We put their Cash App and tip and Venmo information at the bottom, so you can still tip the entertainers as a way for us to make money, because as you know, the rug was pulled out from underneath our feet and we have no work, and unemployment, it's a dream. So it gives them an opportunity to stay busy, stay creative, and to also make a little money. So that's been my normal. This situation has been my new normal for a while. And that's how we've made it work. You know, I said this in a recent interview. I said, the gay community, the LGBTQ community is no stranger to adversity, but in the face of adversity, we definitely know how to rise to the occasion. And that's exactly what I've seen everyone do across the board.
Yeah, it's incredible. I think it's so incredible how quickly you've pivoted. You're like, everything was in person, and all of a sudden everything is online, and you flip that around so quickly to continue that and to continue to give people that joy and that entertainment. I think it's really awesome.
And drag is such a intimate kind of experience, you know. Of course, you can watch it on TV and you can watch it online or on Instagram, but when you go to a drag show, I'm sure both of you have been to drag shows, you know that the experience at a live drag show is it's something else. You just kind of feel it's just fun. You know what I mean? It's loose, it's fun, your hair's down, you know, and it's great. So I think we miss that a lot. You know, we really do miss human interaction, but we are making it work.
And Meg, what about you? So I guess you're a little different. You're being mostly impacted by the cancellation of travel. So I don't know, do you want to share a little bit around how your business model worked before and how that's impacted you now?
Sure. So in 2019, I traveled all but about 6 weeks of the year. So I was continuously on the road. I didn't have a home base. So I moved. The biggest impact on my personal life is getting an apartment in New York City. But I was continuously moving from destination to destination, working with different, what's called tourism boards mostly, but also travel brands like Skyscanner and hotel companies and a variety of different businesses in the travel sector. So I was on press trips a lot of the time. So the way that works is when you're a travel media person, you get an invitation to a destination. They take you to the destination and you create content while you're there. So I would go from kind of, you know, one campaign to a press trip to another campaign to another press trip continuously throughout the year. Also, the way the industry works is we do our pitches and proposals for work about a year, 6 months to a year in advance, depending on what we're, working on and the scale of those presentations. So the estimation is about $300,000 in lost income over the course of an 18-month into 2021 calendar year. Forbes did an article on that, which some of you may have seen. So it's been an interesting opportunity to pivot the entire business model that I have. So I've gone into doing a lot of consulting for other travel-based businesses and doing freelance work rather than doing trips and campaigns working for myself, which is the first time I've had to do that in 5 years. But it's been interesting. I'm really lucky because I do sit on the board of a hotel company called Belmont Hotels and Resorts, with other industry leaders. So I've been able to have early access into some of the insights that other industry leaders are saying. And I feel like knowledge in this time is comfort, at least for me. Also, my association with the International Gay and Lesbian Travel Association has given me insight into some of the ways that folks are rebounding and pivoting their business models in order to be able to kind of stay afloat during the pandemic times. So it's been an interesting couple months.
Yeah, for sure. I think for all of us. And although you both approach it from different angles, I'm sure Pride Month and Pride events, like the marches in the streets are a massive part of your year. What do you think, what is the impact of those being cancelled been for you? And what do you think the impact of that is on the wider LGBT community for those in-person events to not be happening this year?
Well, sorry, personally speaking, from a drag queen point of view, Pride celebrations mean a lot of things. First of all, you get a ton of exposure to a ton of people that come to your city, and obviously the celebrations, and we go back to understanding our struggle and our fight and whatnot. But on another hand, Pride is a huge money-making weekend for drag queens. I'm talking so our Pride in Miami, in South Beach, is in April, because June is just hell on earth. You can imagine it's really hot. So we do it in April. Not that it's that much cooler, but it is. And I'll just tell you from personally, April was canceled here this year. And April, I think I was working almost every single day in the month. I had either a Pride, gala thing, or a hotel, or a party, birthday parties, Pride parties. I mean, plus the parade, plus the pageants, plus everything that goes along with it. So I lost a lot of work. And me and a lot of drag queens lost a lot of work in Pride Month and the whole cancellation. So personally, that affected us because it's a big thing for our economy. I mean, you're giving money to queer people. This is where we have a moment to shine, or we have a moment to showcase our talents and make money, and really get out there, get that visibility that's so important. So that hit harder than anything, and it was so unexpected. Now, as far as the visibility, like I said, the community has really become quite creative with how they're expressing themselves. So, for example, I did a Pride event last weekend, Wynwood Pride, which is another Pride down here, and they were on Twitch. They had 4 channels on Twitch. They got all the videos sent in, and everything was, kind of done virtually. So we still have our visibility. If anyone's, no one's doing anything now but laying around scrolling on their phones anyway. So you're still getting out there. Now's the perfect time to put that content out. So our visibility factor is still there. Like I said, we rose to the challenge. So the Pride, I think we're doing this right now. This is huge. We worked a way around it, and we proved that we don't need a parade necessarily to still get our message across, which I think is ultimately more of the meaning behind the whole Pride celebration.
For sure. Meg, do you have any other thoughts? I know you touched on a little bit around the cancellation in your Forbes article, and we've spoken about it.
Well, I think, for just the straight cis folks on this call, I think there's this perception that Pride is a parade, when in reality, Pride is a series of events that happen throughout the month of June that may or may not involve a parade. And I think for a lot of queer people, especially queer people who are, gay for pay, have a lot of things that we're doing in the industry around Pride that aren't necessarily directly related to the parade. But unfortunately, a lot of the purse strings are being held by straight cis people who are determining where the budget is being allocated for their advertising dollars. And a lot of that goes to $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 parade floats. which is wonderful in terms of visibility. You know, I'm a New Yorker. New York City Pride last year, we hosted World Pride. The parade was literally 8 hours long, because so many people wanted to support and wanted to contribute, and so many brands and businesses. And I would love to see that level of enthusiasm from brands and businesses, even when we don't have a parade.
Oh, we've maybe lost her for a second.
Froze. I was like, I always check to see if
I know she's having a little bit of internet issues this morning, so.
Okay.
Maybe give her a chance to come back.
This may be a dumb question, but are people watching and commenting or anything like that? Is that?
Yeah, so we've got questions coming in, and we'll shift to questions in about 10 minutes. Yeah.
Hello, everybody watching.
Yeah. Athena, I'll pop back to you until and just give Meg a chance to get back on. Do you think there's thinking? Oh, there she is.
Hi. Sorry, where did I cut off?
You were just talking about the floats and the budget and looking longer term into hoping that corporations can continue to support.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of obvious impacts of COVID on travel and on the LGBT community. You know, Pride's being canceled and wearing masks and things like that. But there's also a lot of impacts that we maybe don't see right away. And one of them is with Pride associations. So the way the funding works is big corporations like Skyscanner, for example, may, you know, promote a certain event or put on a Pride float or something like that. And they would then give money to the Pride Coalition.
Oh, no.
Underpinning Pride. And that would go from things like, you know, paying for a lighting or a sound system, a stage, you know, doing the permits for the parade route, paying for entertainment like our fabulous drag queens, bringing just different media people on and supporting them in order to promote it. So they get that money well in advance of the actual event. I'm talking 10 months, a year, sometimes even 18 months in advance to support these events, because you have to pay for all of this stuff. So what happens when the event no longer occurs? Does that mean that the Pride Committee is then indebted to the brand? Are the brands asking for that money back? Does that then bankrupt the Pride coalitions? How many smaller Pride committees across the world are no longer going to be able to support because they can't afford to refund these investments? You know, and that's not even talking about LGBT media. We were already losing major LGBT media outlets before COVID happened. You know, we lost Gay Star News this past year, which is, you know, humongous website with several million page views a month, because they weren't able to sustain the cost because they weren't having the investment from the mainstream audience. And why would you invest in niche content if you think that your priority is PR? You know, that's where we're seeing straight influencers advertising Pride lines, because the goal of that company isn't necessarily to promote to the LGBT community. They want that PR moment of, look, we're gay friendly. And those are very different things. And so this month, we're really starting to see brands come out and show, you know, who values community. Exactly. You know, we're hosting events with Skyscanner. We're showing that, you know, Skyscanner's not making any money off of this event, and there's nominal PR value, but they're still doing it because it's embedded into the ethos of their core values that the LGBT community is somebody that we should prioritize. Meanwhile, we're seeing lots of other brands that I've been asked not to name, and I won't. But lots of other brands who are not doing that effort and not doing their due diligence in supporting our community and supporting our artists when it's no longer convenient or politically palatable for them.
I think you're 100% right. You know, it's about put your money where your mouth is. That's what it's about, you know, because let me tell you something. I'll walk into Target and I will see rainbow shirts and things and, you know, rainbows everywhere during Pride Month that they're obviously making money off of. And you'll see this in every store. Okay, cool. So are you celebrating Pride, or are you making a buck off of queer people? You know what I mean? Because in times like this, where everyone is out of work, where Pride has been completely, you know, kind of erased from doing anything physically, at least, you know, it's companies that have been so verbal and so quick to make that queer coin that should be stepping up and being like, we're here, how do we support you? How do we do an online Pride event for you? How do we showcase you? How do we give you visibility? Because now, and I want to implore everybody out there, pay attention to the brands that did step up in the time. What does Marilyn Monroe say? She says, if you can't love me at my worst, you know, if you don't love me at my, if you can't handle me at my worst, how can you love me at my best? You don't deserve me at my best, you know? And if you can't handle us right now when we have nothing to offer you PR wise, then you don't deserve us at our best, you know? And that's the message I have to say to that, and commend those businesses that have really stepped up to the plate.
And the reality is that the LGBT community is an extremely valuable market, which is why you see, you know, huge budgets going into Pride Month, and you don't see the same budgets going into other marginalized communities. You know, the statistic for US travelers is that LGBT people make 27% more than our straight cis counterparts, and that's often with dual income and no kids. So it's an extremely valuable market for any travel business, and we're also travel 6 times the rate of our straight cis counterparts. So like, it's obvious why people are investing in it is because they want to build the business off of us. But the positive news is that the LGBT community is going to be the first to rebound. We know that historically based off of data from 9/11, but the reality is that when you're a community that has more money, you're going to pay for the privilege of having, you know, conditions that you perceive to be safer or more sanitary, or, you know, less people, or all of those things. So that's why we can encourage brand reps to, you know, maybe enter the door for that reason, but stay for more reasons that are centered around equity and equality for our community, rather than just, you know, how can we support your business?
Sure. And I think we'll move to questions just shortly, but just to sort of dig a little bit more into that travel piece, Meg, we discussed, and I know you shared on some other panels, the fact that LGBT people are likely to be some of the first to rebound and return to travel, which is, I think, a big positive. But there are also some barriers or obstacles that people who are not part of that community might not be aware of. Do you want to share some insights into what the future of travel could look like for the LGBT community with these sort of post-COVID rules?
Yeah, so there's some post-COVID rules that have been widely kind of publicized. You know, we're talking about the complications for the airline industry, for example. It is impossible to do social distancing on a plane. It just is not going to happen. There's been some suggestions that middle seats are, you know, not going to be used, and that will give some space, but there's not even 6 feet from one row to the next. And the impact of the economy on that would just be tremendous. So some of the other options are implementing really rigorous cleaning, you know, and sanitizing on airplanes. Wearing masks, of course, has been offered, but one of the ones that, you know, makes me a little bit nervous for the LGBT community is implementing body scanners in airports in order to be able to determine various aspects of your body chemistry. So, for example, your temperature being the most basic one. But even that puts queer people at risk. You know, we are still a community that is impacted by HIV/AIDS. We're still a community that has a lot of trans and gender nonconforming folks who, you know, may be using different hormones or medications to alter their body chemistry. And as they're going through these body scanners, is this going to be further marginalization for queer people who are then told, okay, you can't travel because of this impact of the scanner?
Came back the last time.
Come back to us.
Lost it. Just while Meg gets back, Athena, what are your thoughts on the return to what normal looks like post-COVID in your space, in the entertainment space?
Well, we've obviously the United States in certain areas has been slowly progressing through the stages of opening. I don't know if Florida right now is in 2 or 3 still. I think we may still be in 2. And this is great. Restaurants are open. They have new guidelines. Everyone is in a mask in Miami, not the rest of Florida, but in Miami, everyone is in a mask. You can't enter a building without a mask, et cetera, et cetera. Now, Miami did have more cases. So when it comes to entertainment, we're still trying to figure out how to make this work. I've been broadcasting from the restaurant that I do the brunch at, my live shows. And right now people are at their tables, they watch it on their smartphones while I broadcast from my computer. And that's cool and all, but it's not the same. There's a guideline that states we have to stay, if we're gonna be entertainers, we have to stay 10 feet apart from the customers, which is hard when you really wanna pack your venue and also get that drag interaction, especially for a restaurant like a brunch where you're intertwining between tables and things like that. And obviously the whole tradition of tipping the drag queen one-on-one is going to be hard to do 10 feet apart. You may have to get those baskets they pass at the churches with the sticks. But right now we're figuring it out. You know, I think we're going to start by doing the shows, the 10 feet rule, and see how we collect the tips. But it's going to take some getting used to. I don't know. And you know, you watch the news every day. Oh, a new wave is coming. Close downs are going to happen again. You just never know. It's terrifying. I don't even watch the news anymore. I just kind of put along until it goes away. I want to be an ostrich with his head in the sand, you know? But yeah, I think as every guideline comes out, it's our job to get creative with it and see how do we make this work.
For sure. Sorry, Meg, we lost you. I think we heard the majority of what you were saying. And I think it's really the insights you were sharing about the body scanners and stuff. We heard all of it. And I think it's really interesting and definitely something that we should be more aware of, because it's not something that I had even thought of until you shared that. So definitely something we need to be mindful of to ensure that we are still being inclusive as a travel industry and making sure that travel is accessible to everyone, even, you know, and whilst also maintaining the safety measures and making sure that we're staying safe as well. I think we're going to go to questions. We've got about like 15-20 minutes left, so I believe there are questions coming in. Here we go. I was like slick. So I will share first question. Meg, are you ready to travel again, and what precautions do you think you will make when you do travel again to make sure you're safe?
I already booked my first 2 trips. So yeah.
So yes.
And coincidentally, I'll be in Miami in October. And I'm hopefully going to be doing a campaign here domestically coming in the next couple months. So yes, I'm absolutely ready to travel. I do think that, you know, for the folks in the travel industry who are on this call, LGBT travelers, luxury travelers, and millennial travelers will for sure be the first to travel. Unfortunately or fortunately, millennials are not experiencing the health impacts of COVID in the same way that some of other generations are. So there's not as much of the fear of getting sick. That has its other complications, obviously. But I think that will result in rebound for those particular demographics relatively quickly.
Awesome. Athena, the next question's for you. You look stunning. I would agree. How have you found the Miami drag communities pulled together through the COVID crisis?
Well, yes, as I said, we did. We've all been going live, and we've been. So I have a talk show. I interview other queens, you know, get them in drag, and you know, as one girl starts her show, another girl gets inspired. She starts a show. So they've been doing their live shows everywhere, and we've been supporting each other. We share each other's videos. Obviously, you know, whenever I'm live, all my girls share me. Whenever they're live, I share them, so we can hit a bigger audience, obviously. And a lot of queens have really become creative in this time. You know, we've been jumping into that editing software that we never used before, and we've been clipping clips together and making videos. So it just adds another level of another level of expertise to our drag resumes, you know? So it's cool. It's cool to learn what you can do under circumstances, but honey, drag queens are the most creative people on earth. We really are. And in times like this, you can't keep a good girl down. I've been saying that through my foot surgery. I've been saying that through COVID. You can't keep a good girl down across the board. So if you're, you know, it's what I said. I read this somewhere and it was actually really interesting. I hope I don't offend anybody when I say this, but he said, if you're bored at home during quarantine, it's because you're a boring person. I thought that was so funny. You know, it's like, you don't have to be bored at quarantine if you're not a boring person. And if you are a boring person, leave it to the people that aren't boring people to help entertain you, you know?
There's been a lot of creativity.
Yes, totally.
For sure. The next question, Meg, I don't know if you've got any thoughts. I feel like broadly, a lot of your work was online already. We've heard a lot from Athena about how she's moved things online. But I guess, have you had any sort of positives from the whole, what would you be your silver linings from this whole experience and from these past few months of pivoting?
I have a lot of personal silver linings. Like I traveled so much that everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases. So I've been able to do things like, buy stuff, which has been cool. Like I've settled down. I've been in one area. I didn't even have an apartment before.
Come back to us.
Again. Athena, any silver linings from you?
Silver linings for the quarantine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've told 1,000%. I have really learned so much about myself with this lockdown. I've loved the knowledge I've gained with computer editing. I have one of my good friends here right now recording behind the scenes while we do this live, because we're making a behind the scenes video of these live things, and I can't be stopped. So it's like, yeah, I've learned a lot. I've been practicing sewing and styling my hairs and just doing stuff that you don't have to. Drag is easy for me from home, because instead of packing a luggage, you just look to the left to your closet, pick what you want to wear, throw it on. You don't even have to put shoes on, sit down and do your thing. You know what I mean? And then when you're done, you hang it up. So there's no travel, there's no ruining the costume, there's no wrinkling. So much easier. So that's the silver lining.
Love it. Sorry, Meg, we lost you again.
I'm sorry, New York City,
okay.
Everyone was on the internet. I don't know where I cut out, but I would.
You're enjoying having your space, having an apartment, having some things.
Yeah, and I think it's been great. In the past couple years, I've been working like 70, 80-hour work weeks pretty consistently. That being said, a lot of my job is really fun, so it doesn't always feel like work, but it's definitely been great for my mental and physical health, being more stationary, being able to cook my own meals and do those kind of things. So there is definitely an upside for it personally for me.
Sure. Athena, the next question is for you. You normally perform in Mykonos every year. Will you be going back as soon as you can, or have things changed for you?
Well, the travel restrictions are a little tense right now for Greece. There's a quarantine period. There's all kinds of stuff. I just had surgery. So I was going to write off this year, but I am actually not writing it off. I'm planning on going in September, so it won't be a full season, but I'm going to be healed in 6 weeks, and Lord knows I want to get the heck out of here. So if I have enough money on my credit card, I'm buying a Skyscanner. If you'd like to sponsor a diva, now's the perfect time to spread that pride, honey. So yeah, I want to go to Mykonos in September. It's usually the last month of the season that I'm there, and I think I'm going to go for a nice chunk of time, as much as I can afford, to perform for my bar, Jackie O, over there. So yeah, I hope to get over there.
Awesome. I love your enthusiasm and positivity. Like your perspective on everything is so great.
Thank you. It's probably the Percocets I'm on.
Like the next question is a comment of a similar thing. Thank you for coming right after the hospital to support Pride. Have you seen generosity increase or decrease with all of your online efforts these days on your shows?
This is from Lawrence. Oh, my friend Lawrence. Yes.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, he's such a huge fan. He really is. He's a supporter, actually. I don't even want to call him a fan. He's been such a supporter of us, and he's one of the people that's really been making this possible. It's people like him that we need more of. So I have seen a lot of generosity. Okay, well, let me put it this way. When the quarantine started, the beginning, right, and the drag queens all started their live shows, everybody was super generous. We were making tip money, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be easy. Look, I made $200 today. Awesome. Well, it's not like that every week. You know what I mean? Because the same people start to watch. You can't count on the same people to donate week after week. And it gets hard. And I get that, you know, and we have only a certain audience on our friends list on Instagram and on Facebook and our social media outlets. And if they've seen you every day or every week, they can't, you know, how many times are they gonna be able to tip you $10 or tip every drag queen? Now everyone's going live. They want to support all the girls. So the money starts to get spread out a little bit more. And I get it. Nobody's been working. Unemployment's down. I get it. So the generosity has been there. The support has been there. Decrease in money, yes, for obvious reasons, like I mentioned, but nothing beats doing a packed brunch show and just having money thrown at you like you're a cheap stripper at the strip club. I'm talking like it's there's nothing like it. Collecting a trash bag full of money, I come home and I bond with my drag kids, and we dump all of our collective trash bags of money on the floor. We get the flat iron out, we iron them. It looks like a drug deal in here. And then we go to the bank with the shoe boxes to deposit them. But nothing beats that. It's not the same as hitting accept or transfer funds on your Venmo account, you know? But it's good. I mean, the generosity's there. I thank people like Lawrence that have been supporting through the whole pandemic.
For sure. And we've got a lot of people on this call, so hopefully we'll have a ton of new supporters for you once this event is up as well.
Yes.
Meg, was there a country that you visited? I know you mentioned around your safari and things that you took last year, but what countries have surprised you in terms of response, being an LGBT traveler or from the community in general?
One of the countries that surprised me in a really great way was Sweden. I think that most people realize that Sweden is a really welcoming and affirming country for the LGBT community, but I don't think you realize just how welcoming and how much it is ingrained in their culture until you go there. A really great example is all of their bathrooms are gender neutral, regardless if it's an LGBT space or not. So in the US, we have issues with our stalls being different than everywhere in the world, but basically most of the bathrooms are just, you know, a big hallway with multiple rooms that end up being cubicles and then a communal sink for everyone, which completely eliminates so many social issues for the LGBT community, but also for, small kids who might need help, or, people with disabilities or people who have a caretaker of any variety. And so it's amazing. You go into clothing stores there and they're categorized by size and not by gender. In a lot of places. So, you're seeing all different types of clothing mixed together, which creates way more accessibility for people. And it was funny, I do a lot of professional development trainings for the LGBT community, and Euro Pride was there a couple years ago. And, we kept saying to people like, well, you should put pride flags out for Euro Pride. And the business owners were like, yeah, like why do we need we're in Sweden, everyone knows it's LGBT friendly. And we're like, well, right, but a lot of people will be coming from different parts of the world where they don't think everything is LGBT friendly. So it's like a visual way to show your support. And it was like this light bulb went off in a lot of business owners' minds of like, oh my gosh, I hadn't even considered that it wouldn't be okay in some parts of the world. And when you're talking to a straight cis person who has that mentality about LGBT people, it's just such a heartwarming and refreshing kind of thought process, and a little bit cute in its naivete, but also like that's what we should be going for, and that's the way the world should be headed. So go to Sweden.
Go to Sweden.
Athena, what about you? Is there any countries that you visited that have surprised you, or you've had a really great positive experience?
Israel. Oh my gosh. Like, I fell in love with the country, a little expensive, not gonna lie, but beautiful. And I'm telling you, I was in Tel Aviv and it was Pride Month, and they have the biggest Pride celebration in the entire Middle East, which isn't saying much, but it's the Middle East. But they had gay flags everywhere, every single business. And I was surprised because I thought the complete opposite. I'm coming from America. I only know what they tell me, this and that. You have your preconceived notions, whatever it may be. But I did not expect it to be so gay. I'm talking like rainbows everywhere. People were open to it. The street was filled. The parade was huge and hours long. I know I almost died in the sun. But by the time it was over, they cleaned it up too. They are clean. The streets were clean, everything was great, but I'm talking the support in Israel was amazing. It was out of this world amazing.
Oh, awesome. I think we've got time for one more question. I don't know how you do this one super quick, but I've tried my best to word this. As a straight male, I've always wondered the purpose or origin of drag. Can you give a brief summary of why it's done and how it started?
Well, sure. To the best of my knowledge, I can. I've heard a lot of different. I'm sure dressing in the opposite, we'll put quotes, genders clothing isn't anything new, and I don't think it started in any particular place. You know, I'm sure now we know gender to be fluid. Now we have educated ourselves on a fluidity of gender. You know, before when it was more boy girl, in in the ancient times, in the early times of acting and theater, women were not allowed to act. So it was all male actors, which men had to play women's roles and dress as the woman's part, wearing women's clothing. I think that is where origin of drag started. There was also a theory I heard where these actors that had to dress as women had on their door or on their dressing room drag, meaning dressed as girl. So or on their whatever their write up was. Also, I heard recently it was about the way that the dresses drag on the floor. That had a way to do with it. These are all speculation. We probably don't know the real truth of where the word drag came from. I think the dress as girl makes the most sense to me. But in recent times, I'm talking like, let's say 1900s. Let's take that century. You started to see a push of this gender, this I don't even know what to call it, this revolution that we've kind of had, this waking up that gender is very fluid. And I think, let's talk about the Vogue scene. You know what I mean? Big influence on drag culture. Drag was underground. Drag was a form of rebellion. Drag was a form of expression. When it was against the law, some guys were pulled over or you had to be wearing at least 3 articles of male clothing by the law. You had to wear it, and this is a huge slap to the face of the patriarchy. You know what I mean? And I think it's born out of oppression, and this is a revolution, and it's very empowering. I mean, I don't know if anybody out there watching has ever gotten in drag, but it's super empowering, to just be free. And this is my drag that you're looking at right now. This is me. This is what I am on the inside. What I look like on the inside, you know what I mean? And I get to express it on the outside. And for everybody, it's different. The two of you have your drag too, you know what I mean? And it's whatever you feel is locked inside of you, however you think that looks on the outside, that's your drag. You know what I mean? And I think it's really important to explore things like that, So for this straight male, as he identifies, asking the question, take a little look inside and see, what would your drag be? You know what I mean? How would you feel to present it all to everybody and to yourself? It's a personal experience.
That was awesome. Thanks.
More background.
We lost her.
We lost her. Oh, I was just going to say thank you so much. I learned a ton there. I don't think I knew all the origins, so I think you explained that really well. While we wait on Meg coming back on, just as we finish up, that's us unfortunately out of time. Do you want to share where people can find you, where people can follow you, and how people can support you going forward?
Sure. Well, so I'm on all social media as Athena Dion, Athena, and Dion like Celine, just can't sing like her. You can follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Worship Athena. Very humbly, I'm kind of Twitter active, but I'm not. So there's a lot of retweeting, more or less. But Facebook, I'm super active. All my live shows are on Facebook. Instagram, I'm super active. My stories are like, you can see what I'm doing at any time of the day, watching my stories. And big reminder, check us out today, 1 p.m. on Skyscanner Pride, because I have my sisters, Skyla and Alyssa, will be doing our Sisterhood of the Traveling Queens, honey.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, super looking forward to that. And Meg, where can people find you, or any sort of projects or things you want to call out and promote?
Sure. So I'm Meg Ten Eyck. You can see it spelled when you kind of highlight my name, across all channels, and Every Queer magazine across all channels, and it's at Every Queer. So yeah, I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram. Definitely feel free to reach out to me if you guys have any questions. Always love chatting and meeting new people.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think we had a couple of questions there that we didn't have time to get to, so I'm sure that both of you would welcome anyone to sort of ping you directly if they've got any further questions.
For sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I learned a ton. I think we had a really great chat, and hopefully people can give you all a follow and continue to support you in your ventures and surviving through COVID. Thank you so much.
I love the conversation, ladies. You're fabulous. It was so nice to meet you. I hope I can meet you both in person soon. You can come on down to a drag brunch and we'll party up once we can.
For sure, for sure.
We'll be there. All right, cheers. Thank you. And for everyone else on the call, we will be back in about 8 minutes with our next panel, which is discussing LGBT representation in travel and in the media. So join us back then for that.